All right, good morning. So today, continuing on this idea of like imagination a little bit, I'm probably not, I don't know if I really have a Bible verse. I probably could have done a better job of pulling that in, but I want to kind of share a testimony and a principle that has been like really life changing for me. So I was, oh, about 2 years ago, actually. It was a big, like, I think our 30th high school reunion, and I hadn't been in like 15, 20 years to a reunion. And so I really was feeling, I really had felt the urging of the Lord. I hadn't even considered going all these years I've been in Colorado, and I felt this urging that I should go. And back in the spring. And then the thing was like in October, and I was going to go, but I hadn't like made the plans, and I was thinking I was going to go, but I hadn't worked out the finances and whatever. So it's kind of in the back of my mind, but I was had delayed. So the lady that I lived with, who's lovely, but she asked if I could house sit. And I always felt like I wanted to help and serve her in that way. But she also liked to travel a lot. And I just had a little bit of a grumbling heart. And that was not about her, that was about me. But I also kind of felt like, gosh, I live here and my horses live here and we live here really cheap. And like the least I can do for her is help, house sit when she travels. So she wanted to go to something, asked me if I would be free. And I said, well, I have a few things on the calendar, but she asked me for a particular weekend. And I said, sure, I'm actually free that weekend, but there's some other things I need to get on the calendar. So book your flight so I can book around it. So she comes back to me and tells me the dates and gives me a week and a half date. She took 2 weekends. So the weekend that she had mentioned, plus the whole weekend, the following weekend, which that was when my reunion was. And at this point, I had said yes. I had not. She had asked originally. She had asked for, what are you doing on this particular Saturday? And I was like, okay. And then it was because I'm thinking about going out of town. I'm like, so for the weekend then. And then she booked the week. So I was having a hard time with this because she's just so precious. And I was not in the best place. So again, a healthy person would have just had a conversation, but I was wrestling with some things, and I was doing a lot of house sitting. So I wasn't even around her. So a lot of this was over text and whatever. So all that to say, I was struggling when I got the dates because I was like, are you kidding me? Because I was supposed to go. I was thinking I would go to the reunion. And so I knew at that point that I could have said, hey, I'm planning on doing this. But I really was wrestling. And I think the internal wrestling comes down to this. I think I really was wrestling with, are you good enough to care about me? And I know that in my heart, I had this kind of lie taking root that I take care of everybody else's travel and vacations, and they go do all these, I stay in these amazing houses while everybody else has these great lives doing all this stuff, but I'm always here because I can't leave because I'm just trying to pay my bills, and I take every house sitting job I can get. I take every whatever. So I was just honestly feeling pathetic and sad for myself. It was ridiculous. but but at the root of it was really not that I didn't have a great life and that I was mad about how I was living. It was more this like seed had taken hold that I wasn't sure that God cared about my heart's desires, and that I know that being the better person or loving someone or whatever, there's this idea of I need to lay down my life for someone else. So there's this spiritual thing where I felt like I should tell her yes, even if it means not getting what I want, because that would be the loving thing to do. And yet there was this part of me that was just going, why don't I matter? Why do I always have to be the one to die to myself and no one else? Like, I'm always doing that for everyone else, but do you not care about me? I mean, that really was what this was about. It wasn't about me and her, because I knew I could talk with her and she'd be fine. She was awesome like that. I was upset with the Lord. And so and I was house sitting again, I wasn't even home. So I had a lot of time to really wrestle. And I mean, there was a level of anger over this I can't even begin to explain, which, to be fair, may have also been hormonal. I don't know. I mean, I was in my head going, my reaction to this emotionally is far more elevated than the actual circumstances. So, like, what's really going on here? But it was a big dramatic moment for me. And as I wrestled, I I really came to this like place of saying, Lord, I need to choose to trust that you care about my heart. And if I really believe that, I can say no. I know I'm within my rights to say, hey, I think I need to go to this thing, but I'm going to let it go. And I'm going to trust that the Bible says that a seed falls to the ground and dies before it bears fruit. So I'm going to let this die. And if you want me there, you'll make it happen. Even though I tell her I will be available, and even though she's booked flights and has already committed me to being in Colorado. So I literally have no idea how I can be in Colorado and be in Texas at the same time, but I'm going to trust that you have a way. and I'm going to let this go. And I'm just going to put it in your hands. If you want me there, you're going to work it out. And if not, I'm not going to be pathetic and like feel like I'm missing out. I'm just going to trust your goodness. So at the end of the day, like the week of, she realizes she had changed her flights, or I don't know. I never really got the story on what happened, but suddenly she's coming back on the Thursday instead of the Sunday, which means I could leave on or Friday or whatever it was. But it was just in time for me to leave and fly out and get to the thing on time. So I was going to be able to like take the late night flight and the early morning flight and whatever and work it out. And I was able to book a flight. It was not ideal flights, but it worked out great. And I made it to the reunion, and it was like this huge pivotal moment. And I began to understand like why there was such a struggle over that, because I think it was a really pivotal moment for me being at that in that event. But all that to say, the couple of principles that came out of it, one is I really realized in that wrestling that I am seeing God like a teeter-totter, that I get one or the other of us gets our way. And if you get your way, it means I'm constantly having to die to myself and I never get what I want, so that you can always get, and God cares more about you. So I'm expendable so that you get what you want. But then if I get what I want, it's that I have to tell you, you don't get what you want. And I don't like doing that to people. So then suddenly I really was seeing everything like it's me or you, me or you, me or you. And I realized this has been like a theme in my life. And eventually some resentment over that was building up. And I think this is the enemy is always looking at things as a binary. He's always showing us it's me or you. And I think our culture of offense in America is really built on this. I'm offended. I have my rights. So I'm going to declare my rights. I don't care what happens to you. Or if I lay down my rights, you get everything you want. I mean, we have this culture of offense is entirely built on this principle. And it is completely not kingdom. So the Lord really showed me, go, Stacy, you've got to quit looking everything like a teeter-totter. It looks to you like you or her. But in my kingdom, I've got a solution where everybody benefits. And I didn't have that solution at the time. And again, I wasn't at home. She had company. I knew that I was in such a bitter place. I couldn't even talk about it in a way that would be healthy. So I literally just gave it to the Lord, because I couldn't even, a healthy me would have easily had that conversation. I was not healthy. So again, please know this had nothing to do with her. This was just 100% in my head. But I just said, Lord, you work this out. I'm going to trust you to be a rising tide, that somehow you have a solution where everyone benefits. And it may be that I'm here. There may be a reason to be here. I think it's for me to be there. So you work it out. And he did. And at the last minute, and it all came together. And so I say that to say principles. God has solutions I've never thought about. And that's where, again, I think this idea of creativity comes into play, that Satan is constantly putting A or B choices in front of us, this or that. And we look at that and we get angry because neither one of those seems like suitable solutions. And I think when we just take that to the Lord and say, first off, Lord, you do care about my heart. You care about our desires. You care about the things in our life. So I can bring this to you. And if I trust that you're good, I can trust you to work it out. I don't have to work it out for myself. So I can literally give it to you and know that you will withhold no good thing. So I don't have to know how this is going to work out. I don't have to have a solution. I just lay it down and bring it to you. And then in my dreaming, God may say, hey, let's dream of a third solution. Let's dream of something better. Or he may just say, let it die and trust me. Either way, there's this idea of trusting God with the rising tide. And that has been a total game changer for me. I feel like politically, as we look at the whole world, I feel like all of our conflicts in the world are because we look at things, because Satan has convinced us it is an this or that solution. And we do not keep pressing into the Lord for out of the box solutions. And again, if we look at the Bible, he has a million different scenarios. Hey, Frank, he has a million different scenarios that are totally out of the realm of our expected possibilities. So, Frank, did you want to say something, or are you just showing me your hand? I'm so sorry about your surgery, friend.
You.
He was just trying to wave at you, but that's his wave now.
The claw.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt.
No, not at all. I love it. I love it. So that's a fun thing about group things. We get to interrupt each other. So anyways, but yeah, so I just feel like if you look at the Bible, that's one of the things I keep reading with this idea of rising tide and like different solutions, and how many times something dies before it gets resurrected, or some hope or dream or whatever, God's ability to resurrect things. But I just keep looking at the Bible going, he had solutions I did not consider. I think my favorite go-to is send them fishing and look in the first fish you catch for a gold coin. That was not how I would approach fishing. Like, right. I mean, they were fishermen. They would have looked at how many fish can I haul in to pay off a debt. And instead he's like, look for just catch one fish. It'll pay. I mean, like that was not in the realm of my solutions, right? A donkey talking to warn someone, not in the realm of possibilities that I considered to solve my problems, right? I mean, the Bible is full marching around the walls to see if they just fall down magically, not in the realm of my battle solutions. So I just keep going, the Lord has solutions I have never considered. And if I keep just anchoring in the fact that the Lord has solutions where everyone benefits, he wants everyone to benefit. His love is big enough for everyone. It is never I love you, but I'm going to sacrifice you. That is not how he works. So that's what I've got today. But to me, that was a substantial game changer. And it took, I'm not going to lie, it was a massive wrestling to settle that in my heart before the Lord showed me the fruit. So it looked to me like I chose the teeter-totter. I chose to sacrifice myself and let her live. It looked like that. But the solution in my heart was, Lord, I trust your goodness in this. I trust you to have a better solution. Whatever it may be, you are big enough to figure this out in a way that I don't know how to do it in my emotional state. And then he did. But again, I let it die first. And so sometimes that choosing to believe in the rising tide is actually choosing to believe in a resurrection as well. So any thoughts, ladies?
Well, just your part about how you reacted or felt about the situation, I can kind of relate to just with a work thing on Friday. Not a big deal, but I took it as kind of a slight, to me or whatever, which is not the reality of it at all. And, really wanted, I started composing the email in my mind, that I knew I was going to wait till Monday, but then, just kind of as the Lord spoke to me, Friday evening and Saturday, if it's worth it, he'll fight for me, and that I don't have to be the one to go to battle,
Yes.
and if it's not something that, he deems appropriate, I'm looking at, well, am I putting more identity in me at the workplace than I should? I mean, that's not all of me, so I have to kind of remember that too, a perceived success or failure at my job doesn't define who I am. So I've decided that I'm just gonna let it go, and I was reassured by my boss and, other folks that, the decisions that they were making had nothing to do with my performance and stuff, but still you take it sometimes that way, but I think if different solutions are meant to be, they're not for me to instigate at this point. So
I keep going back to like David and what's his name? Coat of many colors. What's it? My brain is literally farting on this. I'm like, what the world?
Joseph.
Thank you. I'm like, it's a J. Josiah, Jonah. I'm like, it's not right. I just couldn't
Jose.
say a
Yeah.
word. Thank you. Joseph, and the coat of many colors. I'm like, what is wrong with my brain? But I can tell you his whole life story, just not his name. Anyways, if I ever panic introducing you to somebody, you will know why. I have like a total block when it comes to names anytime I need them. It's really bad. But anyways, but so many people in the Bible got falsely accused or told, like they knew that there was even promises on their life of positions and things. And then there's years of waiting. And again, I just have to remember, like the enemy is absolutely out to destroy us. And he takes that gap of what we believe we're worthy of or called to or whatever, and then puts this reality in the middle that seems totally contrary. And it's so hard to humble ourselves. And again, I think our nation is built on an expectation of rights that is so deeply ingrained in us that we get very easily offended when those rights seem, like somebody's in the way of those. And again, that's not quite kingdom. And so I think your process is beautiful on that. But it's so hard because our entire cultural mentality has been training us to fight for our rights and to do things another way. And I think there's been some good in that, but I also think it's gotten twisted. And
Well, it's just kind of funny too. Earlier in the week, I had received copies where my boss and my coworker have nominated me for an award based on, my, contribution or whatever. And I was, I sent it to Frank. I was all happy and, probably full of pride or whatever. And then, the enemy has to come in a couple of days later and make me question and doubt myself and feel hurt instead of just, I love my job. Why is he, coming in trying to tear that down,
Yeah. Well, and I'll end with this. One of my just favorite, like life-changing kind of things that happened. I was reading Unbroken, the Louis Zamperini story. That book was phenomenal. But there is a part in there towards the end. He has all these amazing stories, but towards the end, he's given his life to the Lord. He's been through all these crazy POW and tortured and thing after thing after thing. And then he's now running this boys camp, making this huge difference in the world. And he gets cheated and wronged multiple times. He's just trying to do good things. And it is so unfair. I'm literally reading this book and my blood is boiling at how wrong it is. And he was like, okay. And he'd let it go and he'd let it go. And then later he would see the benefit and like, okay, well, they screwed me out, but I see how God blessed me through that. And I'm just like, I'm getting so irritated how unfair it is. But in the book, there's they say that he was so convinced of God's goodness to work everything out for good on his behalf if he was saved. He was so convinced that God would do that he suddenly realized he hadn't been angry in 40 years. 40 years he had gone without being angry because he had so anchored himself in the truth that God was able to work all things for his good. So every time something would happen, he was like, okay, well, that doesn't feel good, but I'm going to trust God's goodness in it. And I'll walk away. And then a little while later, the proof of that would show, and I'm like, to me, that is the goal, to be so convinced of God's goodness that nothing can faze me, that whatever you do, it doesn't matter because God's going to be good in this. So he's got this. I don't have to worry. Like, great. People think I'm worthy of promotion. Something else happens. I get the rug knocked out. I'm just going to see God's goodness. He's keeping me humble. People see my good stuff and the Lord can promote me at any time when he's ready. And if not, then that's okay too, because I don't need any of that because I've got God. And to your point, God is our defender. Like I so trust God to defend me that I don't have to defend anything, So that's it. That concept from that book has like, it for years and years and years has just been in the back of my mind going, this is the standard that I strive for. This is where I want to go,
And think how healthy we would be if we didn't experience all those negative emotions. Right?
Can you imagine at 80 something years old, was it in his 80s, he picked up, he decided to learn skateboarding. Hero. But again, to your point of healthiness, like, he was so full of life and joy that he's learning new sports at 80 years old. Like risky was, loved it.
That's amazing.
Apparently. So I think you're right. I think there's an incredible healthiness that came from that. So, so I think as we pray and trust the Lord to defend us and we release those things, we start seeing all kinds of, again, this idea of creativity and possibilities and solutions that are outside the realm of normal start appearing to us. And we start recognizing like the Lord can put us exactly where he wants us. I don't have to put myself anywhere. I can be available to everybody else. And then the Lord can shut doors and open them up. Now, I'm not saying I don't have to be obedient. If God tells me to say no to something, I say no to it. But I can say yes to what he says, even if it means I don't get to go to something I feel like I'm supposed to be at, and then watch him still open up the doors. So, it is amazing as we lay down our life and put them in his hands, the goodness that comes out of that. So with that, I'm going to pray us out. Lord, I thank you so much that your goodness is so much better than we know and that it is always working itself out on our behalf. That you are outside the realm of possibilities and that you always see things. You're like a master chess player. You're so beyond the way we look at things. We're like playing checkers. We're thinking we got to go right or left. And you're like, watch this. And suddenly you're opening up realms and dimensions of possibilities in your scope where everyone benefits. So Lord, I just pray that you would keep illuminating to us these teeter-totters of choices that I know I so see the enemy putting in our heads these black and white decisions that are just feel like miserable choices and we're getting angry and frustrated because it just doesn't seem right or fair. And really the problem isn't the choices. The problem is how we look at it. Because we really aren't factoring in who you are into the midst of these conversations. And so, Lord, I thank you for that rising tide. I thank you for opening up possibilities to us and worlds to us that we have not considered. I thank you that you are able to use our imagination and creativity to show us that there is so much more, so many better ways to look at things than we've considered. And even if we can't see the ways, Lord, that we can just anchor in your truth that there's nothing so dead you can't resurrect it. There's no black and white choice that you don't have another possibility. That there is, I don't have to know them. I can just trust. And that there's no accusation so big that you can't elevate me from it, defend me from it, um, and promote me through it. So, Lord, I pray for that confidence in your goodness. And I thank you that you are expanding that in us day by day. You are showing us who you are and teaching us how to think like you do and how to pray like you do. In your name, amen. All right. Thanks, everyone. See you tomorrow.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Love you.
Love you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Marina.